Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't tuned in, you're watching the rerun. Sounds great. I'm going to be watching the comments to see if anybody has any questions. But if you have any questions after the video, um, then feel free to ask and I will answer later. So tonight I want to tell you a little bit about the color chart. I know that you guys have seen pictures of me posting the color chart with Ellie, and we just whipped that sucker out about 3 weeks ago because it's difficult to be home full time with a toddler, and not just one toddler. We've got two toddlers. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and they keep me on my toes. So if you don't know, I used to be a first grade teacher. I taught for a few years, and that's where I learned the color chart. Hi, Heather. That's where I learned the color chart, and it's a lot more intricate than how I've displayed it to all of you guys and to Ellie, but I'm going to just kind of teach you the basics of it, and then you can build upon it and be creative from there. I wish that there was a book on how to be a parent, but there's not. However, there's many resources out there to help you be more patient, be more loving, be more managed, control behavior, how to teach your child to eat. I mean, the resources are endless out there. So I want to talk again, like I said, about the color chart. Before you decide to implement this, I cannot express how important it is to be consistent. Consistency is absolutely key, and that comes, I mean, with everything. So if you decide that you want to incorporate this in your household with your toddlers or your elementary age kids, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for teenagers. I didn't teach teenagers for a reason. So if you are wanting to use this, you have to figure out what you're going to do, and then you have to stay at it and stay extremely consistent, because as soon as your toddler or your elementary age child sees that you are, for lack of better words, weak, and that they can run right over you with this color chart, it's not going to work. So why use the color chart? It's for behavior management. There's a million out there, but I absolutely love this one because it's very simple. It's a visual for kids to use and to understand and comprehend. And thankfully, Ellie is at an age where she can comprehend cause and effect, and that her choices have an action and a reaction. And so, before I teach you, though, about the color chart, I think it's very important to understand vocabulary that's needed in order to discuss this. So one of the things that I put in my post prior was that the bonus is going to be choices. Choices is a big word that we use in this household. I try very hard to never tell Ellie or Hayden that they're a bad girl or a bad boy. Instead, I like to say that they're making good choices or they're making bad choices. And I started incorporating the word choices when Ellie turned about 2. So I try to say it with Hayden, but I don't think he understands it quite yet. But anytime Ellie does something that I like or that I want her to do, I tell her that it's a good choice. And I am super repetitive, and I explain what the choice is or what the action that she's doing that's a desired choice. So for example, if I see her sharing something with Hayden, I'll say, "Oh my gosh, Ellie, good choice. That is a good choice. You're sharing, you're letting Hayden have a piece of this. What a great choice. Yay, Ellie." And I am super exaggerated about it. And the same thing goes with a bad choice. So if I see her push Hayden, or if she decides that she doesn't want to eat her food, well, then I say, "Oh, Ellie, that's a bad choice. That's a bad choice that you're not eating your food. Very bad choice. That makes me very sad because you are not getting the nutrients that you need and you're not being healthy. So that's a bad choice." So I try to make sure to incorporate that language consistently with her. And so that way, when I started to introduce the color chart, I was able to use both of those and build upon them and leverage both of them so that I can get the outcome that I wanted. And that was ultimately good behavior. So, um, with that said, I then started into a new phase where I started giving her choices. She is a very independent, sassy girl, and she is very opinionated. She knows exactly what she wants, how she wants it, all of the things. And so it's important that I build upon that. I don't want to squash that because those aren't bad qualities to have. And I say that because that's me. But I don't want to squash that. I want to show her that it's okay to be those things, but you have to do it positively. And so I'm always giving her choices. So let's say, going back to the example of her sitting at the table and she's not eating her food, I'll say, Ellie, you have the choice. Now, if you're watching this, this is where you need to write it down. This is the script. You say, you have the choice. And then you literally give them the two choices. But in this instance, instead of saying the choices, you also say the consequence of both. There are good consequences and there are bad consequences. So with the good consequence, or with that ultimatum, I say, Ellie, you have the choice. You can choose to eat your food and be happy and healthy, or you can choose to not eat your food and there's going to be whatever consequence it is. And it's always appropriate to whatever that child is doing at that point in time, whether it be you take something away, no more technology time, maybe you start incorporating timeout into that phase. But whatever it is, ultimately you want to get them to choose the correct choice so that they feel like they have the ownership of the actions that they're taking. So once you then start incorporating choices, the next phase is the famous color chart. So the tools that you're going to need, I built this off of using construction paper. I have it taped with painter's tape, and then I rolled painter's tape in a way so that I can stick it to the wall, and I put it almost eye level to her. The second thing that Love and Logic, Maribel, Love and Logic is another huge thing, and I would love to talk about Love and Logic all night long, but if you don't know what that is, I suggest that you Google it. Love and Logic, I totally am all about it. Anyway, and so if you have multiple children, then make it bigger. And then what I did to give visual cues for Ellie is I put a smiley face on the green, a slanty face for the yellow, and then a really sad face for the red, just so that she can identify what each of the colors mean. And then I just, on a little orange piece of paper, I wrote her name and used painter's tape to tape it. I've seen other parents recently put what are those clothespins where you write the name on the wooden clothespin and then you attach it to wherever they are on the color chart. If you want to be super creative, which is something that I did in my first grade classroom, and I will eventually get there, we're just not there yet. I also have a gold piece of paper, and then instead of going straight to red, you can add orange and then make red and then do purple if you want to do all of those things. But right now I'm just focusing on three little options for her, or three little spots that she can be at. So those are the tools that you're going to need. The next thing that you need to do is you have to explain what this is. So this took me about 3 days of explaining over and over what this was so that she can comprehend what this meant to her and her life and her actions and her, all of the things. So we put it on the wall and I explained, Ellie, this is a color chart. And this is going to tell mommy or daddy if you are making good choices. Ellie, what is a good choice? And so we start talking about what good choices are. Ellie, what's a bad choice? And then if she can't answer me, then I answer for her. So every morning she knows that she starts out the day on green. And then I say, Ellie, whenever we make bad choices, then we're going to take our name and we're going to move it over to the yellow because we didn't make very good choices. And so now we're in a place where this little yellow guy is. And so when you get to yellow, then you have to be, you have to go to timeout so that you can think about what you did and how we're going to make better choices when we leave the timeout square. So again, this is taped up against to the wall. And then right underneath, there is a rectangle, like the size of this book. There's a rectangle of painter's tape that I have on the floor. And she know that is timeout rectangle. And so her feet go inside the rectangle, just so that we know that there is a very designated spot. I don't pick and choose wherever I want. There is a designated timeout spot in her room. And it's a very productive place for her. That's for her to think about, whatever it is. Right. Is she? I don't know. But I'm setting up the timeout so that she can do all of those things. Think about it, have a conversation about it, how we can make it better in the future. So anyway, we go to yellow. Now the key here is to get her back on green. So okay, the key is to get her back on green. So after she goes, like she makes the bad choice, and she goes to yellow, then I put a timer on for 3 minutes because she's 3. I put a timer on for 3 minutes. And when the timer goes, it's very loud for everyone to hear. So when the timer goes off, I always go to her and I remind her why she got to yellow. So going back to the food example, Ellie, do you see where you're at? And so of course I move it. I make it like a big thing that she sees it. And I'm like, And I'm like, Ellie, you're on yellow. Do you see that? Are you on yellow? Yes. Yes, you're on yellow. And I'm just super exaggerated. And I say, Ellie, you were on yellow because you made a bad choice. The bad choice that you made is that you didn't eat your food. That was a bad choice. So then I say, in order to make a good choice in that situation, the good choice would have been that you eat your food or whatever the situation is. And so then I give her an opportunity to make it right. Ellie, would you like to make a good choice and make it right? Do you want to go back to green? Do you want to, hi, Amy. Okay, that's another video, Amy. And then I give her the opportunity to make it right. So I'm like, if you want to be on green, does Ellie want to be on green? Okay, well, if you want to be on green, then you need to go back and you need to eat your food. Do you want to eat your food and go back to green? And then she's always like, yes, yes, I do. So she goes back and she takes literally one bite. And as soon as she takes a bite, I'm like, oh my gosh, you made a good choice. Let's go back to the color chart and change your color back to green. And so I'm telling you, guys, every single time she's like, I'm on green, yeah. And then she like is exaggerated on how happy she is. And that can carry over for at least 30 minutes to an hour. Again, she's a toddler, so you can only cut her so much credit. But I move her right back over to green, and I'm constantly reminding her of why we need to stay on green or how to stay on green. And so it's almost, I've made it a subconscious part of my vocabulary. So I'm not even thinking about it anymore. I'm constantly like, Ellie, green, yellow, red, blah, 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 like a little robot. But consistency, right? It all goes back to consistency. And she's capturing and understanding and comprehending what this means. So going back to the choices. Now, earlier I said, I always give Ellie the choices so that she can be and feel like she's in complete control of her actions. You have the choice. You can good thing or you can bad thing. So when she's on green or whatever color it may be, when she's on green and she is not eating her food, I don't say, go change her color. Instead, I give her the opportunity to fix the action in that present moment. So I'll say, Ellie, are we on green? Yes. Okay. Now you have the choice. You can choose to eat your food, or I'm sick of that analogy. Ellie, you can choose to share your toys with Hayden and stay on green, or you can choose to not share your toys with Hayden and you'll get put on yellow and then you'll be in timeout. So what is your choice? And she'll say, I'll share with Hayden. I'm like, oh, great choice. Good job. I love that you're still on green. And so last but not, so that's the color chart. Now, will she ever get from red to, or from yellow to red? Yes, but I try really hard not to get to red because the consequence is the same as yellow, that she's just in timeout. I think maybe I would do it a little bit longer, but she's always been able to fix the action when she turns to green. Um, Granted, I'm thinking about this all day, every day. This is such a integral part of my vocabulary, and I would imagine that if it wasn't, I would probably get to red frequently and I would get frustrated and she would get confused, and then this would be a waste of time. So, yes, Lorraine, yes, consistency is absolutely key, or none of these things work. And then last but not least, we set a goal to be on green every single day. And if she ends the day on green, I set a timer for 7 o'clock when the timer goes off at 7 o'clock and she's on green, which I try so hard to get her on green and set her up for success and encourage her to be on this color. Um, then I reward her, whether that's a popsicle or another book or playtime or whatever it is, a sticker, whatever it is that you decide is like the ultimatum prize for ending the day on green, then let it be that, and remind her or him every single day, like that you're trying to get to that point. I'm sure it could work on a 44-year-old, Darren. I don't know. Christine, I don't think that it does work for a 1-year-old, but you can definitely start using the words of choices. If you missed that part, I would go back and listen to the beginning. I just don't think that they can comprehend that quite yet. I don't think they're developmentally ready to understand cause and effect, and maybe they are, but I haven't had any success with Hayden, and I'm trying super hard. So, but definitely introducing that vocabulary is super important. So that is the color chart. If you have any questions, let me know. Comment on the video, and I will go back and answer them if I didn't get to answer them in our Facebook Live. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that this works for you, and if it doesn't, there's a million resources out there for you to help you with this. So stay patient out there, parents. I made a post earlier about how us being, I don't want to say stuck at home because that's a bad word and it depends on your perspective about this quarantine, but it's new to your schedule and it's new to your children's schedules. So we're all trying to figure this out. So I know you don't have the resources because you didn't go to school for this or you weren't a teacher. So if that's not you, watch this video, pay attention. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you and your kids to make sure that you guys have a happy, loving experience at home, like we're attempting here in this home. And I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. It's hard and it takes a lot of attention and consistency. So that's all I've got. Thank you guys for participating. Let's see. Christy, would you move from green to yellow when your 3-year-old chooses to argue with you about it? Okay. I never argue with my children, ever. Somebody said something about love and logic earlier. I would definitely encourage you. Oh, Amy, good. That's awesome that your 15-year-old still uses a color chart. Love that. Yes, Rachel, I will attempt to do more videos like this. So the reason why I don't argue with them is because I am not going to engage in a back and forth with my child. I don't have, I get frustrated, they get frustrated, like nothing good comes from that. So I don't argue. I lay down the law and it is what it is. And so something with choices. When Ellie gets older and she starts to not make the choice that I want her to make, then my language will change and I'll say, Ellie, you have the choice. You can choose to share the toy and be happy, or you can choose to not share the toy and you get a color change. You make the choice or I will make the choice for you. And I'm very matter of fact. There is no room for interpretation to what I said. There's no room to argue with what I said. And I leave it at that. And if they don't decide in 3 seconds, another thing is I count to three. I do a lot of timers, a lot of alarms, a lot of counting, and I'm super consistent with what I say. Another thing is when it comes to the consequences of what I say, the bad thing is going to happen. If you say that that bad thing is going to happen, no matter what, that bad thing has to happen. Like, there is no budging on that. So if you are going to do a super far-fetched bad consequence that you can't even like realistically implement, don't do it. That completely defeats the purpose. Um, so I make it happen. When it comes to throwing tantrums, oh my gosh, terrible twos, terrible threes. Guys, you're making me want to drink my wine because I'm reminiscing on what's happening with my child. Temper tantrums are a daily thing. They happen once an hour, every hour, on the hour, like clockwork. But I almost want them, actually. She cannot communicate fully yet. She's still trying to figure out her emotions, what frustrated is like, what angry is like, what sad is like, and she can't identify those emotions quite yet. And she also can't express herself with very specific words as to why she's upset. You get upset, I get upset, you get mad and angry, I get mad and angry. And none of those emotions are bad. But we just have to teach them how to explore those emotions. So when it comes to temper tantrums, I let her do it. I don't look at it. I don't acknowledge it. I go about my life like I don't acknowledge that behavior. And then when she's done, I'll look at her and I'll be like, "Hi, Ellie, are you ready to have a happy time? Are you ready to be happy?" And then when she's still doing her thing, I'm like, "Oh, Ellie's not ready to be happy." And then I go about my life and I turn around and I drink my wine, I play with Hayden, I do whatever I got to do to completely interrupt her. Because when she's not getting the attention that she needs or wants or she feels like she deserves, then she's gonna stop. And every time, like clockwork, as loud and annoying as it is, don't engage, don't engage, don't acknowledge. So anyway, I hope that helps. I do not claim to be the best parent in the world. I only claim to be the second best parent in the world. Just kidding. Anyway, thank you guys for participating. Thank you for watching. And I definitely will do more videos like this. And you guys have a great night. Cheers.